Sure. Well, I mean, just to keep it short, first of all, I wasn't really highly impacted by the storm. I live in an area where it was almost as if nothing happened at all. We didn't even lose power. But for the actual storm, I decided to stay with my parents because, I was a little scared to be alone, even though we didn't really know just how bad it was going to be. And it was sort of, in the beginning, in the hours leading up to the hurricane, I was sort of just enjoying it, actually. I was at my parents' house. I was baking cookies and living it up, just like, the power at my parents' house eventually went out before the storm got heavy. I want to say that Con Ed probably preemptively turned off the power, although my parents were never notified, of course. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. But anyway, the power went out, and it was kind of comical because I was excited to have the power go out and, live without power, live without all those things that distract us now. And I was really, trying to enjoy that as much as possible and see it as a positive thing. And I loved lighting the candles and all that stuff, being transported back to another time. And my parents were just going absolutely insane. My parents, who are both around 60 years old, they just couldn't be without their iPads for 5 minutes. My mom especially was going through withdrawal symptoms. But yeah, and I remember it was an early night. I guess that was Monday. Yeah. It was an early night because I think without all of our electronic devices, there wasn't much to do, and the sun went down and we got tired and we just went to bed. And it started to sound pretty scary at a certain point. And we woke up in the morning, and then it was sort of finally dawning on us and everyone just how severe it was. And my mom was attached to her radio. She had a battery-powered Walkman that she was just listening to the whole time and telling us as much as she knew. Yeah, and it's still, it's sort of bit by bit hit the three of us just how bad it was, because their immediate neighborhood wasn't really too damaged, but they live very close to a lot of the really hard-hit areas, like Carrollton Beach, and we're not that far from Brighton Beach and Manhattan Beach and Coney Island and all that. So, I think my dad probably ventured out to just see what was going on, and it was, I don't know, I think it was just really shocking. I think that was the main thing. Nobody really anticipated how bad it was going to be, and then we were unprepared. So, we were very fortunate, and even though we have friends, my parents especially, they have friends who live in Breezy Point and Rockaway. Thankfully, none of their friends were injured or, killed or anything, but their homes were severely damaged, and we know a lot of people whose homes were completely destroyed. So, it's life-changing, but you just have to say, so long as everyone I know and care about is okay, and was not harmed, then you just have to be grateful.
When you were talking about all the different people that you that were affected, I was wondering about when we spoke earlier, you mentioned a couple of your students were affected as well. Do you want to talk about that at all? Or?
Sure. it's funny because, so obviously, in the aftermath of the storm, there was sort of a big hiatus for anyone who was teaching. You know that. My school was closed the whole week, which, I mean, I teach at a public high school in Brooklyn and went to public school in Brooklyn, and I cannot remember. There's never been in my lifetime another time that school was closed for that many days in a row. I think the last time I think school might have been closed for 2 or 3 days was when it snowed really bad and there was snow going all the way up to the top of the cars. But it was just crazy to keep getting updates and to keep hearing each and every day, like, no, schools are going to be closed another day, and actually schools are going to be closed until early next week. Anyway, so I hadn't seen my students for about a week and a half after the storm, I guess, and I was really scared to come in because I know that, I mean, my school is in Manhattan Beach, and they all live in these surrounding low-lying areas near the water. And I was just scared because I knew that most of them were going to have been impacted, which they were. But, I mean, it's funny. The first day back, my first class back, I didn't have that many kids out. Most of them were there. It was probably their second day at school because most people didn't come in the Monday following because they were still experiencing lots of issues getting to school with the MTA not running quite well and the gas situation being so difficult. So anyway, my first class with everybody was probably their second day back at school, and it amazed me how resilient they are. I don't know. There's just something to be said for being young, I guess. They can just sort of, as long as they're okay, they can just sort of pick up and move on, which they all were. They were there, and they were living from moment to moment, and just they were there, and they were totally ready for class. And, you know, we talked about what had happened for a few minutes, and, of course, we talked about the media portrayal of everything because that's what my class is about. But it just amazed me how okay they were because most of them, I didn't want to make them feel like pitied or victimized or anything like that. I just had like sort of a candid conversation with everybody about it. But I would hear like bits and pieces before and maybe after class as well of students like breaking off into their own separate conversations, and everyone seemed to be experiencing some sort of damage from the storm, whether it was severe flooding in their home and being displaced, which a lot of them were. A lot of them were staying with relatives or something, or they still didn't have power. I mean, as far as I know that a lot of my students still don't have power right now, and this is how many weeks after? 4 at least? 3 or 4 maybe. So yeah, it's just amazing to me how they're, you know, they've just managed to keep going seemingly unscathed, I guess. I think one of my students in particular, I think I was telling you about her. I had a student who, I think about a week before the storm, I got a notice in my mailbox that her mother had passed away, and you know, she'd been ill for a long time, and the letter didn't go into details, but it just said basically so-and-so's mother succumbed to her illness, and she's now under the care of her aunt. So, you know, whatever the situation is with her father, he's not in the picture. He's not going to be her guardian. And she's basically going to be moving to Staten Island to live with her aunt. So I'm thinking about this girl, and I'm thinking, you know, she's a senior in high school. She's applying to college. Her mother just passed away. She had to up and move to Staten Island to live with an aunt. Her entire life has been uprooted and changed. And then you know, not even a week later, the storm hits.